Hi everyone, and welcome to another speed build. Today I have a build that I am really excited to share with you all. I went on a trip to Disney World recently, so I thought it'd be fun to have my first build back from that be something that was inspired by that trip. So I decided to make a simplified version of the Cinderella Castle, and this is a build that I've been working on slowly over the past couple of weeks, which is why I haven't had a speed build up in over a month. But I'm so glad that this is done and that I can now share this with you all. This is a build that was definitely really outside my comfort zone because, as I said multiple times, I'm someone who usually gravitates towards cozy family homes, not these big, grand, intricate castle type builds. So it just took me so long and so much trial and error to try to figure out what I wanted to do. And originally, I was going to do something else as a Disney type build after getting back. Like, I was thinking about trying to recreate the Primetime Cafe because that's something that would have been a little bit easier for me. But, I figured if I'm going to do this and do a Disney-inspired build, like, I gotta go big. I gotta do something that is a lot more iconically Disney than a restaurant that's in the Hollywood Studios park that not a ton of people probably know about. But even though this build, took a lot of trial and error to figure out, I had a lot of fun with it, and it was really nice to do something like this that is so different than what I've done before. But it definitely was tricky to try to figure out how to get across that, make something that was obviously supposed to be like the Disney Cinderella Castle with what we had in the game, because we definitely did not have, we definitely didn't have everything in the game that I needed to perfectly replicate the castle, but I think I did do a decent job at making it so that if you look at this, you would know what I was going for. And it was also pretty hard to figure out exactly what shape I should make it. I was sitting there just analyzing pictures of the castle as I was building it, and since, we have the tile system in this game, I couldn't really get all the detail that is in the actual castle, but I think I did a fairly decent job at trying to replicate it and trying to mimic where the different kinds of towers are, like how you have this mixture of towers with these high circular roofs on top of them and other towers that just have, I think it was called crenellation on them, like just those different height half walls. Here I was trying to replicate all the archways that you see on the back of the build, and I'm not 100% sure what the lowest level of this castle actually is, but I got the impression that it was just kind of a pathway underneath the castle. But I'm probably not right on that. I was trying to look at pictures of this level of the castle, but I couldn't really find anything, and when I was in Disney World, I didn't really get too close to the castle, but from what I saw, that's the impression that I got of it, so that ended up being what I made this as on this build. So it's just kind of this hallway that goes from the front of it to the back of it where I end up putting this paved terrace area, and then there's also a staircase there going upstairs. And I made the second level of this castle a restaurant because I know there is a restaurant in the castle. It's called Cinderella's Royal Table. And then on the level above that, I made that a suite because there is, of course, the Cinderella Castle suite. So I, of course, had to put that into this. And from what I was reading, that's not a suite that you can really just throw money at and be able to rent. It's a thing that you have to be given. I think it's a thing that Disney typically gives out as a gift. I think they used to do a thing where they would randomly give the suite away to someone who's in the park each day, but I don't think they do that anymore. And I'm not exactly sure how it is that you get to stay in the suite now, but I don't think, I think it's still you're not able to just pay a bunch of money to stay in it, but I try my best to kind of replicate what I could find of that, but there's not really tons and tons of pictures of that and how it's laid out, so I just kind of did my best to guess and work with the layout that I have, because the shape of this castle is definitely not identical to the shape of the actual castle, but I was just trying to do my best to replicate the things that are more obvious about the castle, the things that feel more important to trying to replicate it, like all those windows in the back of the second level, because that was a thing I noticed when I was there, that you just had all these beautiful, detailed, tall windows at the backside of the restaurant. And I mean, yeah, past that, I just kind of did what I could to fit into the game and fit within the size of the lower level that I made. Here I'm trying to find the right shade of blue to get that iconic blue roof look, and thankfully I found it. This looks pretty similar to the roof that you see on the castle, and now I'm trying to figure out the right kind of stone pattern to put on it. So I ended up using this one that came with City Living, and then for the rest of the castle, I just used a plain white wallpaper since that was what I could, that looked like that's what it was, where you had stone towards the bottom and then just more of a plain color towards the top. Although I think in person it's actually more of a subtle pinkish beige kind of a color, but I couldn't really find anything that was exactly like that. And when I tried pink wallpaper, I didn't really like how that looked as much because it wasn't quite as subtle as what's on the actual castle. So I ended up just sticking with more of a white color. And I also tried to use, I also kind of try to do a little bit of forced perspective myself with this build, because the Cinderella Castle at Disney World looks taller than it actually is. I think it's about 180 feet tall, but if you look at it, it looks a lot bigger than that, and that's because Disney used forced perspective with it. They did stuff like they made it so as you go higher up on the castle, the stones are smaller, so it just gives it this appearance of being way taller. And then they tend to do a thing, they don't do this with just the Cinderella Castle, but they do this thing where each level above the first level is shorter. So it's just different things like that that really give it the look of being this massive tall castle when it isn't. And I know in Disneyland, they do that with the Sleeping Beauty Castle. That one I think it's only 70 feet tall. I've actually watched some videos on forced perspective in Disney World and where they use that. So kind of what I did to do that with this build, since we have unlimited amount of walls that we can use or floors that we can use, we can only do 4 floors. So what I did was I found these really tiny windows that came with Get to Work, and those were perfect for making the walls just look bigger than they were. And I also did other stuff, like I sized down that balcony I am and put it under that tiny window, so it really made it look like it was up higher than it was. And I also sized down those dormer decorations, and that also aided with that. So it was just kind of fun to find these different ways to give the illusion of this castle being larger than it actually is. Here I was trying to use shelves to create a fake roof, since on this level I used half roofs and the tallest wall height, so it wouldn't have worked to try to create a proper roof, and that worked fairly well. The only problem was those shelves fell down for whatever reason. I think it was as I was doing some other stuff with the roof, so if you see later on that those shelves are just down on the ground, that's why. I did fix it before finishing the build, so hopefully when you download it, those should stay up, because it just doesn't really look as good without having something there to give the effect of a roof. I mean, it's not the best way to do it, but it kind of was something that worked. But right now I'm just adding some more details to the outside of the build here. So we're just adding these decorative pieces to the roof. And I noticed that the actual Cinderella Castle had some touches of gold on it. So that was something that I was trying to keep with adding these different decorative pieces. And we also have some flags up there. That was a thing that I noticed was on the actual castle. When I first started working on this build, my plan was to make it something that felt more commercial, like something that was recently built to be this destination, like this attraction for people to go and see, like what the Cinderella Castle in Disney World is. But when I went down that road, I didn't really like it. My original thought was that I could have something that was surrounded by these pathways and had a park around it, had other stuff to do around it, and was just more of this commercial attraction destination type thing. But yeah, when I started to do that, it just didn't really look that good. I had this more structured mode around the castle. I had pathways all around that going to the back, and it just did not look good. I think it just didn't look good with this castle and with the surroundings of it. It didn't feel like it fit in. So I ended up scrapping that and going down the road of having this be just this more enchanted looking castle with this lush landscaping around it, and a moat that was a little bit more natural looking, and there's another pond in there. So it's something that I think looks more like an old castle that has been here for hundreds of years, that someone just turned into a restaurant for people to go to, and then kept the surroundings of the castle in more of its natural beauty. And yeah, that definitely just fit in with this world a lot more, and it was something that I had a lot of fun doing. And I really like how the landscaping turned out on this build. Normally landscaping I don't feel as I'm as good with landscaping as I am with the actual building of things and furnishing of things, but I really like how the landscaping of this one turned out. So here I'm doing the moat, and I'm just using the fountain tool and doing some random lines with it to try to get more of a natural feel to it and not like it's just this perfectly shaped man-made moat, which is, as I said, what I originally did. And then once I did that, I surrounded with plants and rocks to give it more of that natural look and try to cover up the more structured borders that it has currently and try to hide that and give it the look of just being this natural pond. Another thing I did to help with that was to take the terrain tool and raise up the land around the pond a little bit, just to give it that look of there being a bank that's sloping down towards it. And with this build, I really enjoy just taking my time with it more than usual, because with building lately, I've had a tendency to tell myself, okay, you gotta furnish this entire thing in one sitting, so I've kind of rushed some builds with that. But with this one, like when I got to a point where I just didn't want to continue, I would just stop. I mean, I know that sounds obvious, but it was the first time in a while that I've really just done that and taken my time with the build and worked on it bit by bit. And it was a lot nicer, and I think it led to a nicer end result. So that definitely is something that I want to do with builds more in the future, and I want to just take my time with them more, even if that means that I upload builds less frequently, because I just want to be more proud of what I'm putting out. So you probably are going to be seeing videos from me less frequently in the future than I have had them in the past. I mean, I know lately I've been uploading once a weekish or once or twice a week, and I think that's about what I'm going to keep up with, because I just, like, in the past, like, even with my old job, I would tell myself I had to upload every other day, and when you're working full time, that just really doesn't work well. Like, I was pushing myself too much, and I know it sounds obvious, but I really want YouTube to be something that adds to my life and I do for fun, not something that I feel like I have to do. So yeah, I just want to let you all know that's kind of why I haven't been uploading as much recently. I mean, in addition to just going on the trip, and I also got sick when I came back, which is why I didn't upload for 3 weeks. But past that, I just really want to take a step back from things a little bit and slow down the uploading a little bit and make it so I'm recording when I want to and not feeling like I have to record, and I'm putting out things that I'm more proud of. It's just slowing down and taking a break because of the vacation and then getting sick really gave me a chance to think about all of this and think about how YouTube fit into my life and why I'm doing it and what I want to get out of it. And yeah, obviously, like, if I just do, work on YouTube when I want to work on it and don't feel like I have to do it, then I think the end result is going to be better videos, even if they're less frequently. And another thing is that I definitely need to do less series. So since getting back, the only series I've really been uploading is my Sims 2 series, because I absolutely love that one. Like, as soon as I finish recording a part of that series, I'm like, okay, I cannot wait until I record another part of that. So I just keep wanting to do more of that. But my Let's Build New York Brownstone series, I haven't been quite as into. So that one I need to wrap up in, I think, a couple more parts. So what I was thinking about doing is just doing one more part, like doing one part that's basically a speed build where I get the build almost all the way finished, and then I'll have another part after that where I add some finishing touches and then have the fly through of it, and then that'll be it. I don't know when I'm going to do that. I have to wait till I get some time to basically finish the build to do that. And as far as my Discovery University Let's Play goes, I don't know what I'm going to do with that one. I honestly haven't really been super into that one lately. Like, before I left on the trip, I recorded a whole part of it and I just scrapped it and never put it up because it wasn't good. Like, it was one of those parts where I was just kind of forcing myself to record it and forcing myself to sound into it. And when I look back over the footage, I realized I would have to cut an hour footage down to like 15 minutes to try to get something that was decent to put up. So I just scrapped the whole thing. Like, that was not what I wanted to put up, and I don't know. I just don't know what to do with that series. Like, the only thing I know is that I really love the Sims 2 series. I want to continue that. So I might just mainly focus on that and speed builds for a while and just see how that goes. Like, I think just having that one, like, just focusing on one series that I really enjoy and speed builds is probably the best way to go right now. That way I can upload that series more frequently than I would otherwise if I had a bunch of other things going on. Well, the trip was really nice. We got to go to Disney World for a couple of weeks, And the nice thing about that was that we were able to take our time more with doing everything. Because I went to Disney World once before, and it was a family trip when I was about 15. And that was a 1 week thing, so it was more of a you spend one day at each park kind of a thing, and you try to get the most out of the day. So you're there from when the park opens to when the park closes. And I remember my mom had this whole itinerary for being able to get everything in for the whole week. Like, she had the time we wake up, the time we eat breakfast, the time we get to the park, the time we do certain things. And I remember, like, for the water park, she had it where we'd spend an hour at one water park and then go to the other water park, and then I think we went to another park later in the day. So it was this very packed itinerary that was kind of hard to keep up with. So it was nice to just be able to explore things at a more leisurely pace and get to do other things than just going to the parks. And we also got to spend a day at Universal Studios, and I got to see the whole Harry Potter Wizarding World thing, which was really cool. But yeah, it was nice to be able to do that and just, go to the parks at like 11 a.m. or like some days we didn't go to the parks till like 3 or 4 p.m. and be able to do things that I skipped over the last time I went, like doing things like the Country Bear Jamboree and the Enchanted Tiki Room. And there was also this scavenger hunt thing in Adventureland at Magic Kingdom that I didn't know about. Like, there's this thing where you can get pirate maps, and you just go and find these different things throughout Adventureland, and if you complete 2 of the maps, then you get a fast pass for Pirates of the Caribbean, which is kind of cool. So I really like just being able to take our time and do things like that and go on the riverboat and little things that you tend to skip over when you're on a shorter trip. And we also got to see Galaxy's Edge, which was really cool. I didn't get to go on Rise of the Resistance, though, because they're doing that whole boarding pass thing where you have to be in the park to get a spot on it. Like, you can't just walk up to the ride and get in line. And everyone wants to go on that, so all of the boarding passes are gone by like 7:30 a.m. And like, I heard about people getting up at 5 in the morning to get to the park and wait for like an hour outside the gate to be able to get a boarding pass. And as cool as I'm sure the ride is, I didn't want to get up at 5 in the morning on vacation, so I was like, nope, not doing that. I guess that'll just be a thing we had to miss out on, and maybe we'll be able to do it again some other day. But getting back to the build, the whole first level of the build is done. There wasn't really that much to it. As I said, it was just kind of this hallway, so I just put a bunch of those tapestries down it, and then I added some of those knight statues, and you got some benches. Those tapestries definitely felt like something that, they felt like something that was very royal and kind of fairy tale-like, so I used them a lot throughout this build. And this level here is, of course, the restaurant. So I was trying to do my best to make it look similar to the Cinderella Royal Table restaurant, but it definitely is not accurate because this is a lot smaller than that restaurant was. But I found this wallpaper, which looks kind of similar-ish to what's in the restaurant, and I noticed that the restaurant had this red carpet with a pattern on it, so this was something that I felt sort of resembled that, even though it's not exactly the same. And another thing I noticed was that there were a lot of arches in the restaurant. Like, there were these arches that had these, what was the word? Cornice, I think it was? Wait, no, that's not what it is. The cornice is that, molding thing I put around the top of it. No, whatever that thing is called that is like that 45-degree angle support that you put under a roof. I don't know why, I'm blanking on my architectural terms here. I'm not really an expert on that anyway, but anyway, I noticed it just kind of had that throughout it, and there's flags and stuff like that. So I was trying my best to replicate that as well as I could with the space and what I had. So you'll see me in a little bit taking that one decorative item, that one support type decorative item, and using that next to the columns to try to replicate that. I'll point it out when I go to do that. But here I'm just figuring out the whole entry area, where you go in to talk to the host and ask to be seated. So I was trying to do something that felt a little bit extravagant for that. So I ended up making it this thing that's kind of walled in with that spandrel up above it and the column beside it. I wanted this restaurant to have this very cozy and kind of medieval fairy tale-esque kind of a vibe to it. And I think it's fine that it's a bit on the smaller side because it is something that, I think I don't really know a whole lot about the Cinderella Royal Table restaurant, but I have a feeling it's one that's a little bit more exclusive and kind of hard to get a reservation at. So I think it makes sense for this to be something that feels very small that limited people are allowed into. And I also added that Princess Cornelia bust there because, I wanted to add a little bit, like I wanted it to feel like a kind of a princess themed restaurant. And I did find the one painting there from Vampires, and that swatch of it reminds me of Belle. Like that sim looks kind of like she could be Belle in her yellow dress. So I thought that fit in very well. So I used different swatches of that one, like to make it look like royalty and queens and kings and princesses and princes and stuff like that. Okay, so here's what I was talking about doing, where I'm just adding this in to make it look like it's pouring the ceiling and to add a little bit more detail to the room and try to add some of those features I saw in the actual restaurant in here. And I thought that painting also looked kind of like that could be some sort of princess, so that fit in. I do like that because the host area is walled in, it kind of makes the area where the waiter stations and the entry to the kitchen is kind of set aside, like it's something that doesn't feel out in the open. So yeah, I think that's something that did work pretty well, so it doesn't feel like it's as easy to get to as the rest of the restaurant, if that makes any sense. Like it's kind of an area that's blocked off a little bit more. But here I'm working on putting in the tables and chairs in the restaurant, so I used this set that came with Get Together, which definitely had that sort of fantasy, medieval-esque feel to it. So I ended up using a lot of stuff from Get Together and Get Famous, and also some stuff from Realm of Magic in that build, because I did like that some of the stuff from Get Famous had this very ornate feel to it, like those curtains there I thought fit in perfectly. And then when I get to furnishing the suite upstairs, I end up using a lot of furniture from Get Famous in there. I also used a lot of stuff from Vampires because these chandeliers just work so well. And I had a lot of fun furnishing this build in this way that's different than what I normally do. But I am definitely looking forward to getting back to furnishing some more family homes. And I know I do have that one build that I started over a month ago, that one that was 4 townhouses, where I haven't done another part of that since then. So I need to get back to that. That's probably gonna be the next video that I do because I really need to finish that up. But here I'm just finishing things up in the dining room by placing the menus and napkins on it. And I was trying to see if I had room to add a candle to the tables, but yeah, there wasn't really enough room for that. And plus, I mean, this place is lit up like a Christmas tree with all the chandeliers in here because I placed one over each of the tables. So yeah, we definitely did need any more light in there. And I also just changed all the chairs to be blue because I wanted to add another color in there than red and just make things feel a little bit more colorful than they did with just the white chairs. So this area over here, I ended up making a waiting room. Originally, I was going to have it be another bathroom and have 2 bathrooms, but I didn't because I think it was because I would have had to have had the door going to the bathroom right at the top of the stairs there, and for whatever reason, I didn't really like having the idea of having a bathroom door right there. Like that, for some reason in my mind, like it didn't feel fancy enough, so I like the idea of just having a nice arch there and having a little waiting room over there because, I mean, most restaurants tend to have a waiting room, so that is pretty realistic. And I was looking at some pictures of the waiting room for the Cinderella Royal Table restaurant, and I was kind of trying to replicate that in here, but it's just with the space that wasn't really going to happen. So I just kind of did my own thing, and I did find this lamp from Vampires that I haven't really used much, but that is beautiful. And I mean, it's just a really nice candle type light. So you'll see me use that upstairs in this build as well. Because I think normally I would use the Get Together one, like for that kind of a thing, but this one is just absolutely gorgeous and I think looks a lot better. And here we just got a shield there. I thought that was a decoration that fit in very well. So now we're on to the kitchen, and this kitchen took a little bit to figure out. Like originally I was going to try to make it more of a fancy feeling kitchen with using those nicer counters, and I got rid of this thing and put some wine racks in there, but I ended up changing that up a little bit later, and here I'm doing that. Yeah, like here I'm replacing with a more industrial counter, so I just went for more of an industrial look with it, and I ended up getting rid of those wine racks later on and just replacing them with that one rack that just has the different containers of food because I thought that fit in a little bit better with what I had. But here I'm just putting a mirror above the sink, which I might change because I don't think you would typically have a mirror above a sink in a restaurant. I haven't really spent a lot of time in restaurant kitchens, but I don't think that's something that exactly makes sense there. So what I might do is replace that with that one placard that I used over near the waiting station because I like to use that above sinks because it kind of like I kind of think of it as a sign that says wash your hands before returning or something along those lines. And I should probably also add paper towels and a soap dispenser, so I need to go in and do that. There's always these little things that I forget about and then I remember them when I'm actually like watching back the video and trying to record the commentary. But here I'm just trying to figure out what to put on these shelves. And this is where I always get kind of stuck with restaurants. I mean, I could have stuck dishes and stuff above there, but I don't know. I didn't really want to do that, so I ended up just sticking a bunch of various ingredients. Like we got that jar of olives and those jars of peppers and lemons and limes and oranges, like just things that I imagine they would use as ingredients in their cooking, and just adding some pots and pans there. And ended up just walling off that wall because that corner counter didn't really look that good. And there's where I'm replacing those wine racks. I'm just getting a trash can in here and finishing things off by getting a board, which I imagine maybe has like the special of the day, something to remind, just something about what they should be cooking or just notes and stuff like that. So that is it for the kitchen. Now we're on to the bathroom, and there's not really a whole lot to this one. I did use the toilets that came with Get Famous because those definitely have this very ornate fairy tale kind of feel to them. And these mirrors here also fit in so well. Like those definitely just feel like this really nice fairy tale type of mirror. But that is it for the second level. So now we're on to the top level, which is of course the suite. So here we have just a little entry area, and I was looking at pictures of the actual Cinderella suite, and I noticed that it had these stone walls in it that look pretty similar to this wallpaper that came with Discover University. So I just went ahead and swapped that out for that. And the layout was a little tricky to figure out because I had kind of this weird shape to work with. Like there are these diagonal walls, there are these areas that are kind of like turrets that look pretty from the outside but can actually be a little bit tricky to furnish. And just to add a little bit of extra pizzazz, I went ahead and made this sort of diamond pattern with this flooring here, just to add a nice little bit of extra detail. And another thing I did to add some extra detail was taking columns and sticking them in all of the corners throughout this suite. The kind of unfortunate thing about how I did the windows in this build is that, like, due to having those small windows, there's not really a lot of natural light in here. So I couldn't really have like big beautiful windows with nice curtains on them. So that did make it, I guess, like a little bit, it made it so it didn't really look quite as good in here as it could have. But that's kind of what I had to do to get the look on the outside. And while I was trying to make the interior of this build look nice, this is definitely a build where the focus is more on the exterior appearance of it. Like I was more concerned with making it so it looked right on the outside. So, of course, I had to put up with things like these little windows on the inside here, but I don't think they're too bad. And right here, I was trying to replicate what there is in the actual Cinderella suite because I was reading an article about it, and it said that the TV in the parlor room is in the mirror. So it's something that looks more hidden when it's off. So I was thinking, maybe I could put that mirror from Get Famous around the TV to kind of like make it have this nice border, but that didn't really work out. So I ended up just not even putting a TV in here because I couldn't find a good way to put one in that went with the look of it. And I really like how this fireplace from Realm of Magic looks in here. Like it just looks very magical, very fairy tale like. So it is definitely just perfect for this kind of thing. And we have yet another Princess Cordelia bust in there. But while that whole mirror TV thing that they did in the actual Cinderella suite sounds cool, I feel like that would probably be kind of an annoying TV to watch because, like, if you have a TV that looks like a mirror when it's off, like, there's got to be a crazy amount of glare on that thing. But, I mean, I guess the point of staying there isn't to sit around and watch TV, so that's fine. And then over there, I just made that area into a little dining nook. I was originally thinking, like, maybe I could fit a kitchen here, but there just wasn't enough space to do that. And I mean, you've got a restaurant downstairs, so I don't think you really need to worry about cooking in here too much. And I was trying to figure out some kind of cool decoration to go on that. So I sized down these stone gargoyle decorations that came with vampires and just had some of these fairies like kind of looking at each other on it. I thought that looked really neat. And then above that, we have yet another one of these paintings here with what I imagine to be Princess Belle. It definitely looks kind of like that. And that is about it for this area out here, just finishing things up with one more painting and getting a rug under that table there. And after that, we are onto the bathroom, and I really like the bathroom. This is definitely my favorite part of this whole suite. So originally I was going to have just like I was going to use just that fancy Get Famous shower in here, but then I remembered we do have that standalone shower that came with Discovery University, so why not use that to try to make this fancier, larger shower enclosure that you would see in a place like this. So that is definitely the really nice thing about getting that just standalone shower with that pack, is you can use it to create these more extravagant shower enclosures. And then we also have a corner tub over there. And I don't know, I just really like that just medieval fairy tale type look that this has. And then we also just have a shelf there with some soaps on, you know, kind of like the toiletries that tend to be left for you at a hotel. The only problem was the toilet was the last thing I tried to fit in, so I didn't really have the best space to put it in, but I figured that spot that I put it in the end was a bit better than where I had originally, where you kind of had to step around the sink in the tub to get to it. Once again, I used the Get Famous toilet, and it fit in really nicely in that bronze shade, and then we also have the matching sinks, and I once again used those really pretty mirrors that I used downstairs, and that is it for the bathroom. So now we're on to the bedroom of the suite, and I, of course, used the bed that came with Get Famous. I mean, it is just this beautiful, ornate, over-the-top kind of a bed that just fits in with this so perfectly. I used it in this royal blue color. And then we have yet another fireplace in here and some more chandeliers. So this is definitely just a very extravagant, over-the-top suite. And over here, we just have a couple of chairs with a table. And I added this decoration here that looks like a champagne bottle in some ice. Thought that was fitting for what, you know, feels like a pretty romantic suite. And then we, you know, of course have a dresser and this really fancy mirror over here. And then to finish things up as far as the furniture goes, I just added a desk over in this area and put in the matching dining chair that came with Get Famous just to match with the bed. So on this, I added this lamp, and I was trying to figure out what else to put on this because, I mean, this is a hotel, like this is a suite you stay in. It's not gonna have a bunch of personal stuff on it. So I thought that ink pen was something that felt kind of charming to place there. And I also added a notepad in because hotels tend to, I mean, I guess not all of them, but like when I travel for work, like the ones I stay in then tend to have like notepads that you can write stuff on. So I just added a notepad there to go with that. And I was trying to figure out what to do to finish up that bedroom area. So I just went with the Get Famous end tables and just did that so that they would match those mirrors above them, and that's it. So now we're finishing things up on the outside and furnishing this area out here. So I just added a bunch of these benches in that came with romantic garden stuff, and then also added this large fountain there. I was thinking about adding picnic tables, but that didn't really fit in. And also, if I had added picnic tables down there, I believe they would have been included as restaurant seating, so your Sims would be seated there for the restaurant, which would probably slow things down a little bit since the kitchen, everything is upstairs. So it's just further that the staff for the restaurant would have to travel. So it just would have made it so the restaurant doesn't function as well. But here I'm finishing things off by just placing these string lights. And that is it for the building part of the video. So as usual, if you want to download this, there will be a link to do so in the description. There will be other stuff in there on how to find in-game. And that is going to be it for me. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the video.